You're listening to Unbridled with your host, Genevieve and Carly. Welcome to Unbridled.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm your host, Genevieve, and this is our show Unbridled.
And I'm Carly. We're here with Fred.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Fred, can you introduce yourself to the games community?
Sure. My name's Fred Barberra. I'm the president, the outgoing president of Mounted Games across America at the present time, finishing up at the end of the year. My whole family rides. We've been riding for roughly 12 years all in. Yep, and live in Pennsylvania, and that's about it.
So you've been riding for 12 years. Have you been doing games for 12 years?
So I started out with No, I've probably been doing games about 10 years. I've probably been I used to go on like an occasional trail ride. Once in a while, Steph would have some group lessons and I would ride a little bit. I can't say I felt very sure on a horse. So I really didn't ride too much. I was more just, barn handling, helping the kids, that kind of stuff. And then once I started gaming, then it's been consistent for about 10 years. Yes. I just looked this morning, I think 2013. So
that's crazy. So who's the matriarch, who's started horses in the family?
All right. So myself, I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Manhattan in northern New Jersey. So I was Mr., just suburbia, knew nothing about horses whatsoever. Went to an ag science school, Delaware Valley College at the time. Now it's Delaware Valley University. It's where the girls went. It's where Stephanie works right now. So that's where I met Stephanie. She was in the equine science department major. I was a landscape design major. So long story short, Stephanie's whole life has been horses. So, since she was a toddler, they've always had horses growing up, riding, showing. She rode on teams in college and everything. So once, obviously, we were together, then it became my whole life after that. So, so here we are. So, but the girls started with ponies at like Steph's dad's house to start, and then we purchased our farm in 2005. So once we built the barn and everything, then they had ponies, and we went from there.
So who introduced you guys to mounted games?
Yeah, that's a good question. It started basically with Pony Club. Like Stephanie always wanted to get the girls involved with Pony Club, just to learn the responsibility and the educational part of it. And our local Pony Club, Perkiomen Creek Pony Club, is run by Patty Najee. So we met Patty, and then and obviously they're a heavy in games Pony Club. So Elise started doing it at first. I think she went to a rally. Of course, played at their place. She rode one of their older ponies, Doc. And in the beginning, Elise was going to, I think in the first spring they started, she would go with Patty and Wendy to MAs. And we're like, I don't know, she's at some competition, sleeping with 10 kids in a hotel room. Really didn't know much about it probably until that summer at Mullica Hill, which is really a little over an hour from us. And so that's where Steph and I first saw all the divisions, the open division. And we were just like, wow, this is awesome. And of course, Caroline liked it. And then for years they were in both Pony Club and MGAA. And then they've kind of aged out of Pony Club at this point.
Well, you kind of your whole family just sort of dove in as a family, it feels like pretty quickly, right? It didn't take years.
Yeah, definitely. It was, just taking them to the events at first. And then, like I said, 2013, it's funny, Todd Blythe, JC's dad, and I decided, because they used to have the Iron Horse pairs not far from us. So we were like, we'd joking around, we should ride. So we had a halflinger, Alan.
Alan.
You see him once in a while still. Yeah. It's perfect name for a halflinger. And, so I rode him. He was here at our place. It was one of our boarders. And then I forget, I think Todd rode Montana, who we had at the point. And that started it. And that was just it. Then we formed Antique Roadshow, and that kind of went through its transitions. And then we, rebranded into Bomb Squad, and where we are today, which has been around for quite a while now.
I was going to say, you guys are one of those teams that, like, when you look at legacy teams as far as names and like jersey color and everything, like you're kind of like a staple that you expect to see out there in 025 at this point.
Right.
Yeah, right. And it's amazing. And like you said, it's gone through different players at different times, and, people coming and going, and, life gets in the way. And, but yeah, it's still around. And now you finally find those pieces that all fit together. And I think now with Steph and Leanne and Chris and Carl, like, we just have the complement. We have a great mix of everything that we, and we just have such a great time out there, which is, the best part of it.
Well, and you're pretty brave too, because you're on a team with family, not just family, you're on a team with your wife. How do you navigate that? Because I know a lot of people, they are intimidated by it, honestly.
Yeah. And it's, I think it just started where, just had openings, and we started playing together, and we definitely, like, I know everybody enjoys our communication that we have during games, and we're definitely both intense competitors.
Yeah.
So, and we're from Philly, so it's like, we're very heated, like very, very all in, and don't hold back, but
very passionate, but in a way that, like, you guys are always, when you get off the field, I feel like you guys debrief, even in the ring, and like you're patting each other's back and walking out. Like,
right. You don't hold it against each other when you leave the ring. You're just very competitive in the moment.
Right. And the two things, number one, like, we definitely don't let it leave the ring, because basically we're out here having fun, a gift card or a ribbon, like nobody's losing an Olympic qualifier because we, messed up a race. But two, what I love most about games too is there's another game to play. So you have to get it out of your head and move on, or else it's going to screw up your next, it's not like you blew your eventing dressage test and the rest of the weekend's wasted.
Gone, yeah.
So you have other games to play, which is why, you definitely have to have a short memory and laugh about it.
It definitely is a head game more than I think people think, because of that too. And even when we go from like our standard format of 12 races back to back to back, or you do concurrent, right? You start to get into a rhythm, and they're two totally separate head games when you play like concurrent format, which you guys just did at the last competition, right?
Right.
Where you get to play like 2 races and then you step out. And now you some people it impacts positively because they calm down for the next race. And some people, I feel like it rouses them up because they get nervous for the next race. They don't just get to ride off that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we really enjoyed it because, again, like you were saying, we could debrief from what just happened in the ring. And if something went, well, or didn't go well, you can kind of be like, all right, that handoff didn't work, or something, let's try something different. And then you could also, all right, what's coming up? Let's prepare for it. And we're very in tune with like technique as far as like, so it's always like, okay, make sure you do this, as far as for the next race, that we're always trying to study, like, what's the fastest, simplest way of doing it, just to always save those milliseconds, which could make a difference. So, I definitely liked that format coming out. That being in the rain on Saturday morning wasn't that much fun,
No.
but I definitely enjoyed, and I think too, especially for Sunday, after playing 2 sessions on Saturday, on Sunday, it gave Goodey, like, gave our horses a break. So it seemed like they weren't just like running. They had that few minutes in between, and they seemed definitely that we, saved some of them for the end, where they still had some gas left in the tank.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely like the ponies that are much more hot. Like my horse, it definitely is a negative effect on him because he needs to burn steam as you go.
Oh, right.
And then he goes and he just like builds up and he's ready to explode for the next one.
Right.
But then like my mom's pony, I know when he gets out there, like he's had time to kind of decompress. He's ready to go. Like it's just so interesting because every player on the team might have a different combination. And you're like, how do you cater to that? I've been on teams where when we do concurrent format and you step out, like you could be totally chill, but then your friend is like riled up. They're not ready,
Sure.
And it's that team aspect too of navigating the personalities, not just yourself, Yeah.
And I think with the concurrent, because, and with the heats, I should say, I feel like this session, like this MA, we played really loose where like
Yeah.
we knew what we had to do on Saturday, like to make the A final. And it was like, all right, just play consistent play. But everybody's out here, we wanted to try a couple of things. If somebody was like, we're working on our leans and quoits, let's try that. So I think that kind of carried into Sunday where we were still playing loose and you weren't so uptight about like points are washed. You're starting over. It wasn't in your head that we were going into Sunday 8 points behind and we had to try to make that up like right off the bat, where you are kind of tight. So
and it's weird
we weren't able to play that all year. So it was like
Exactly.
different because so it was definitely a different mindset going in.
I was thinking about that too earlier on in the organization, and we talked about this with Stacy some, but we had heats for virtually every division.
Yeah,
particularly for open. You would have like 4 different heats of open. And so Saturday was all about like working that shuffle, right? And so it was, I think, almost more intense on Saturdays than it used to be, because that's where you kind of sat by the end of Saturday moving into Sunday. But you're right, then everything was washed. And it's like a totally different atmosphere when you walk out there and you're like, all right, it's a blank slate. I'm in this place with these, 6 teams, and the pressure's on right now. I can't ride off of all the success of yesterday.
Right. Exactly. For sure. Yeah. And when it's cumulative, like if you're building a lead, it's great, so you could, you have that buffer, but, and maybe it worked for us, but it didn't work for other teams because, they, if the team thought like, oh, they rode well on Saturday, but then it gets washed, then you're kind of like, oh, whereas, we felt on the other way, like, right, clean slate.
We got a chance.
Keep it going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Goodey, I wanted to talk about Goodey.
Yes.
Yeah. What's his story?
Where'd you get him? Let's hear all about it.
Oh man, the Goodey. So he's a 14-2 Appaloosa, which I know you love. So
leopard Appaloosas.
Yes. So I started in games. I started on the Halflinger Allen, and then I was like, all right, Steph, I need my own horse. And I got Dakota, and Dakota is phenomenal. Like he was gated, but the best trail horse in the world.
Yeah.
But, when we were in the games ring after a while, he was like, I'm just not really into running. Like, this isn't my thing, but he'll walk all day for you, for hours and hours. So we're at a point I was like, I need to get something faster. I need to get something, a little more go. So Cindy Buchanan rode on our team at the time. And she basically said, well, Goodey was Maggie Buchanan's like pony club pony, did, been there, done that, he could do anything. So all phases of like pony club and dressage, eventing, everything in games. So she said, well, Goodey's just standing around. I mean, if you want to use him, that's fine. And I'm like, all right. So we brought him home, and, he was kind of lazy in the ring at first. And I was like, I already have one lazy pony. I don't need another lazy pony. And she's like, you may have to get after him a little bit with a cruff. I'm like, all right. So, I did. So, he was fun. And I felt he did have definitely more energy, but it wasn't until there was a Woodstock Fun Show that we brought him to, and we stayed at the McBain's, and then we went to Woodstock and got him in the ring, and he saw the games equipment, and his ears went up like, yes, like we're game, and like, so it's been, and that's the end. Like it's been great ever since. He's just, Stephanie does a phenomenal job of keeping the ponies, fed well, fit. We can use them for anything. Stephanie will use them for different dressage lessons. We have one of the sisters of the novice riders is using him for our pairs competition next weekend.
Perfect.
So he can do everything, but he's been fantastic. I mean, he has made me the games rider I am. Like he is just awesome. And
he's such a good fit for you. He seems like he's got the breaks, and he's got the turns, and he's just got the stops. He's got everything you need in a games pony, but he also, I feel like, fits your personality perfectly too. And the dynamic of your team, he's just been such an asset.
Oh, thank you. And and I like so many people come up to me and they're like, what have you done to him? Like, he's so fast. He's got like an extra gear this year. I'm like, I don't know. I just, he just loves it. But no,
that confidence too, and like building that partnership.
Yeah. And he's always been blind in the left eye. And then unfortunately last year, it just got to a point where we had to take it out, but you just have to play a little different on, with that, like bottle exchange, like some people crisscross and turn the barrel to the left, And I can't do that because he can't see the barrel. So he's like, I tried to do that and he started drifting away from it. Like, well, I can't, it's over there somewhere, but I'm going to go all the way over here. So then you just have to realize what you have to do. It's different minor things, but I mean, he's just awesome.
That's so cool too that I actually had a thoroughbred when I was younger in my eventing career. He, I guess, was playing in a field and he got like a massive spur into his eye when we were on vacation, and the boarding facility didn't do anything about it. So by the time we got home, it was severely infected, had to have the whole thing removed. It maybe wouldn't have gone there if it was treated, they said. But I remember everyone being like, oh, his career is over. And he came back though, and he was like jumping. He would do trails. He was the most bomb-proof horse I'd ever had. And it's good to see that you can have something like that happen. And if a kid ever, deals with that, particularly with an Appaloosa, it's not career ending. I mean, you just ride the horse that you have.
Yeah. And they're just resilient. It's just amazing that, and he didn't, even though he had to have the eye removed, he was already blind. So that way there wasn't a huge, change for him and, too much of a difference, which was great.
So what was the coolest like competition experience that you've had to date with Goodey, with your team, Bomb Squad?
Well, it was
so
probably,
many, right?
Yeah, there's so many, but I mean, I have to say like last weekend, like winning the A final was just, I mean, we've worked really hard and you know how it is, like, not only like pony fitness, but our fitness has become such a big thing just because it's so competitive anymore. When I started, it was, yes, you had a few teams that were definitely like way out front. And then now I just feel like the whole over 25 is just amazing. It's just
it's true.
The competition level. And so we have, like I said, we've always been like so close and just finally winning it one time was just like fantastic. It just felt like, all right, we've arrived kind of. And it was funny because I was like, I'm in the, over by the A-line judge, like in the run out, cheering Carl on, as he's coming home in 5 flag. And Leanne was just like, Fred. I'm like, what? We just won. And I was just like, wow,
crazy.
Like we did it. So yeah, that was fun. That was probably one.
And you guys have worked so hard to get there, honestly. Like there's a couple of core teams, I think, that are traditionally kind of at the top of the O25 division in the United States for our organization. O25 is one of the most saturated and I think most competitive divisions at this point, where you see the lower, like you have a spread of teams, but that top half of the division there, I mean, is intensely competitive. And throughout the year for year end too, like you guys are all just shuffling consistently. So it's always cool to see, like every time we go out there, it's impressive to see how people continue to progress their skills. And not just that, but also like your teamwork and your handoffs and everything, the connection that you guys are building when you have a team that's been together for so long. So it was so cool to watch you guys last weekend.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. And there's like little things like, all right, we got to start doing like running handoffs. We got to start doing this. And, you just can't do a running handoff if you have bad handoffs. So you got to make sure you start with that and get them solid and just, again, like just trying to gain little edges to try to make a difference. And we're always thinking about that. But yeah, it finally all came together and it was just a great feeling when they, announce you and you're just like, everybody's cheering. And it was just like, wow, we did it. This is awesome. So
you get that blue ribbon and then your picture's taken with your team and it just feels so satisfying.
And everybody's like, the over 25 division is so supportive of each other. And I just anybody like your mom and I were doing 3-mug together and just out there battling. And then we're on the side, just like, I'm like, Linda, that was awesome. So like, you did so well. And she's like, DJ's legs just can't keep up with Goodey's, they're longer. So we were laughing about that, or, always the time flies, like, Anna, Anna's been really working hard with Bourbon and she had a great race. And I was like, Anna, that was amazing. So, just complimenting each other on all of our hard work for, being adults in riding is just fantastic. So it's great.
And I think it's fun too. Like when we're at home, practicing, my mom will be like, Bomb Squad's really, really good at that. And she's like, so she starts drilling it like at home and
exactly.
Like, bring it out on the field.
We know the pluses and minuses of all the teams and what, all right, this is a speed race. We have speed. We can, let's do this. So it's in your head constantly. It's just, Even when you're at the gym, you're at the gym and you're thinking about like, you're thinking about mounted games and you're like, what am I doing? I'm 54 years old and this is all I think about, but it's like,
I love that.
It's like, that's our life, like, especially now, because we're basically empty nesters and it's like, all right, well, this is what we're concentrating on right now. So it's great.
I mean, my mom, so we'll go to the gym together and I'm like, all right, you got to do step ups, like box step ups. Like, get your mounting down, right? You're not going to vault. You don't want to vault, and she's like, I'm getting tired. I'm like, don't let Fred beat you. And we all reconvene chanting. And it's like those little victories. Yeah.
Bomb squad. Exactly. That would be funny.
The motivation. Yeah. So what do you guys do to stay, I think, fit personally, but also to keep your ponies fit? Because that's a topic I think that comes up a lot when I field questions. I'm like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? They're like, what do people do to condition themselves and their ponies?
Yeah, conditioning I'll tell you right now, I probably ride the least as far as riding him, but he gets ridden by different people and different lessons. For Goodey. I'll take him and, I'll definitely practice games with him or try to take him on some galloping sets or something just to, build up some of his stamina. But, Stephanie's definitely the guru behind all of our fitness and the girls come and ride too. So, just as far as, what needs to be done and just keep them fit and keep how far along, as far as the game season going to go and, what do we need to do to keep them going? For ourselves, I mean, definitely, it's a crazy story. I broke my leg back in like 2007 and then like to rehab, I started going to the gym and I'm just like in this, like, weekly routine with a friend of mine that, there's a couple great boot camp classes that we take on Monday and Wednesday, really working on a lot of core work, a lot of leg work, a lot of jumping, a lot of lunges, all squats. And then, and then we mix in we used to run, but now we do like a spin class on Friday. So we work on that, which, also helps. And then some weights in there too. So it's just like an all around, but just trying to stay in shape, and definitely Stephanie does like a lot of Pilates and things. And, and just whatever you can do, like you're saying, you were discussing like legs and core, like the main things, just so, it's a huge part of it anymore too. It's like just not only just your pony fit, but, keeping yourself top shape also.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say that I think that's one thing, like, all right, set aesthetic aside. We don't really care about that in our sport, and which is fabulous. We are so inclusive, but I think it's so important that we expect our ponies to be athletes. Like, invest some time into yourself to make sure that you're supporting them too as an athlete and as a rider.
I agree.
In any capacity, like we all have the potential to just do just a tiny bit more. And I think like going into the new year, same thing. Like I just want to keep pushing myself to be like a better support system for my pony too, who I'm expecting to perform.
Right. And I think that, for both of you, like, you got a year under your belt now and open, and it was like, all right, this was awesome. You guys did fantastic. And it's like, what can we do better?
Exactly.
So you're always thinking that, and that's great. I mean, I think it's healthy to always have that in your mind to, what I can do to better myself or, my pony and come out better next year for the season.
Now you and Steph being on the same team, same family, how often do you guys practice together? Because I know that question comes up and there's people who are always pretty scattered for the most part.
As far as a family, or just like Steph and I, is that what you're saying?
Or just you two, because you guys are on a team together, like to solidify things like handoffs, etc.
I'm sorry. It's just, so what you're saying is like, what's that?
You broke up a little bit. So
I was going to say,
question. Yeah.
Okay. I think my Wi-Fi is coming and going.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. No. So you and Steph being on a team together,
right?
How long has it taken for you guys to get good at those skills, like handing off? Or when I ride with my mom, right? I've been doing it for so many years. We don't even need to practice that much anymore, but we still try to do it, like the once a month type thing. How often do you guys practice games?
I would say probably we try to probably practice once or twice. Games probably like once or twice a week, maybe. Probably just once. We probably ride, and then like on the weekends we'll have like a practice. And someone I know you discussed before as far as like pick certain games, and we'll just ride those games. Or especially if the race list comes out, then you know exactly what you'll be playing, so you can make sure you can brush up on them, and then you figure out, if you're having an issue with something, what's a better way to do it. So, we'll work on that. we even when Mark Washburn used to come up and do clinics, like when he would be in the area, and so we used to do clinics with him, and he was very technical oriented, so it was like it was very we picked up a lot from there, because that's definitely we're extremely like always thinking about technique as far as, and I think that shows in our handoffs and everything, because it's one thing that we definitely pride ourselves on, is we don't drop too many handoffs unless something's goes awry. But so I think just working on that, and and just as far as like your bottle, your patterns for your bottle, any kind of like bottle games or anything like that, or association, definitely it's something we work on and always like drill to try to make sure we got it down. Your especially toolbox put downs, your association put downs, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
So.
Right. Is there any advice that you would give for adults who maybe didn't grow up riding, that see O25 riders and want to join in, and they feel like a little bit intimidated by like all of the competition happening? Is there anything that you would recommend they do? How do they find a team? What are your suggestions?
Yeah, as far as if they just want to try it, and like, are you saying when they're starting? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
maybe
Like
they got
starting
a
out?
couple practices, but they
Okay.
maybe feel a little bit intimidated by the O25, by the size of the
Right.
division, but that would be the one that they would fit into. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I definitely, if you want to try it, anybody should try it. Like definitely like Jen, you're running all your pairs competitions down there, and
Yep.
and we have the one coming up, and start with small, green pony, green riders, and just get a taste for it. I mean, we could always put practice on for any rider that wants to try it. It seemed like there was a couple of people. I posted it in 2 different county equestrian websites about our competition, just so people who want to try it or see it can come check it out. And a couple people, I'll have time in the spring. I'm like, well, you could, at least
check
if
it
you
out
want to
now.
come see it, and then we can work on it all winter. But
Yeah.
that's basically where we could start. I definitely think there needs, and we went through all this at the annual meeting, but more of the smaller pairs competitions, things for people to try it without having to dive right into a full weekend MA, and with the money and the resources. So it's
true.
a lot, so definitely. But there's a place for everyone, and everybody's always looking for a rider. So and everybody's so welcoming, and that's definitely a big part of, I think, what's great about our organization is just, whether you're, at the top or at a lower team, and just, everybody's cheering for each other, everybody's supporting each other, and just, it's fantastic.
That's, that is one of the things too. And we talked about this, Carly, probably on our pilot episode, I think, but if you're like new to the sport, or your kids are involved and you're like, hey, I really kind of want to try that. Like, for the most part, if you reach out to one of the people on the board of governors, reach out to somebody that who plays games. It's very much a grassroots effort. And I think for every person that's gotten involved in Mounted Games, it really was like one person that kind of pulled them into the sport.
Right.
So like reach out and just make that connection, because you can usually find someone a pony, or give a demo if there's a club that's interested. Like, don't ever feel like nervous about reaching out if someone is new and is watching us. Like, I think we're a very inviting organization.
Right. And even on the website, there is, a whole spreadsheet of regions and people in regions, or instructors that are willing to either, you can come to their farm, they can come to your farm, or put on a clinic. I mean, we've done that for pony clubs, just held practices, or just, if you want to just try it, see if you like it. It's just, it's definitely made me a better rider. And I think that everyone, you're so worried about playing the game, you forget about riding, and you just ride. So
exactly.
yeah, exactly. So you lose that nervous tension of, sitting there and making sure everything's perfect, which I'm not a very good rider. It's just,
it's like building the
athlete
skill
rides.
without knowing that you're building the skill, because you're kind
balance.
of, you like you said, you're distracted, but then you're really just learning to balance. You're learning to self-manage. You're learning independent seat or hand. And none of those things are because somebody's barking at you to do it. It's just because you have to do it to survive. Like,
right. Oh, for sure. And Stephanie always says that once even the girls started playing Mounted Games, that she could see it in there when they would They don't really event anymore, but when they were, just if they get thrown off balance or anything, it wasn't such a big deal that they would come flying, and they were just like, okay, and kind of like settle back in, and it just helps in their all around just being able to stabilize on a pony, and
Right.
it's just it's so it's helped like with the the cross training almost, and the different disciplines.
I remember when I was eventing a lot more at the time, but I was playing mounted games actively, and I had an American saddlebred that was an event horse, which is a little crazy. He was actually the first American saddlebred that was registered to qualify for AEC, the American Eventing Championships at training level, which was cool. But I remember going cross country, and it was kind of weird terrain, and we had rain and everything, and I was going into the water complex, and I just didn't set him up right. And he ended up it was like a refusal, but it was like one of those spin and ditch kind of refusals.
Yeah.
And like a total games rider, I had my leg over the back of the saddle, and literally my whole upper body was on the side of the horse, like on the ground. And I'm tall. And I pushed off the jump, and I got back up, and I was able to continue and actually complete like the course.
You never came off, right? Exactly.
It was funny too, because it was David O'Connor who was announcing for it. And it was funny because he knew my name, how to pronounce it. He had asked me one time. And so he was always really sweet when he was announcing. And he was like, that must be a games rider out there.
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's really
for sure.
funny. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, because you just build that independence and confidence in being able to kind of manage your pony just by doing this sport. It's so exciting. And I think I see people too, when I introduce games to kids that are younger, people who maybe came from like a hunter background, and you see coaches that are anti-games, and they're like, oh, it's going to, change their equitation. It's going to make that so that the pony just runs around with his head up all the time. I think it's interesting to note too, how many games ponies do multiple disciplines, like not just games.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's like Goodey, like, I think most of them that we started with, the kids, Smokey, and then the girls started, well, even Rocky. I mean, they used to like jump little Rocky, so it's amazing.
And it's good for them too. I think, a lot of riders that do decide to focus on mounted games that are maybe younger, they do go out there and almost exclusively practice games, and they just drill the games to the point where I think it can get a pony a little bit sour or sticky towards it. It's worth noting that, like, dabbling into other disciplines is so important because it keeps their mind fresh. Like, even just going out on hacks and trail rides is so important.
Yeah. And I think once we get through the game season, then that's basically what we concentrate on, is just, take them out on a trail ride, or just, whatever around the property, just clear their mind a little bit from, the whole year of games, for sure.
Let him decompress. I know Remington sometimes he like gets worked up too much, and he'll like get, I guess, burnout from games if I practice too often. And that was one problem. It's so funny because like I've always wanted like 2 games ponies, because so I could practice my skills the amount that I needed to, because I felt like I needed more practice than he did, and he would just be so done with me. He's like, we've been running around for 45 minutes. Can you just be done? I'm like, I'm not good at this yet. No, we can't be done. So having a break is definitely really important for a lot of the ponies, especially the smart ones. I feel like they get really bored with it.
Yes, I agree.
Now, so how do you guys manage the winter? Do you ride through the winter? Do you give your ponies any sort of a break through the winter, out of curiosity? Because I know it's like some people do, some don't.
It depends. If the weather's mild, like I said, we won't ride them consistently or anything. I think we definitely give them a break and give them off, especially, we have some older ponies like Barry, Smokey's getting up there in age. So, they definitely need a break. Even the winter's kind of hard on them anyway. So we don't want to, cause any injuries or have any issues with them. So, but if we get some nice days, we don't have an indoor, so we just, we do have the outdoor. So if it snows, that's basically the end of that. But we have some indoors in the area we could go to.
Too. Yeah,
exactly. But I even, Stephanie she actually has a stall at the school in the, in the equestrian program. So she can take a pony up there if like Caroline's goes there. So she can just come down to the barn and ride, or if Stephanie's on site. So she'll do that.
That's so cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely, I think a lot of games riders too, are like us and don't necessarily have an arena to access, or they just have like an outdoor pad. And I've had people, it's interesting when I go and try ponies to buy and they're like, oh, I only have like a field to ride in. So, well, it doesn't really scare us because that's kind of what
Right.
we're used to, right? You just ride with what you
Yeah,
got.
exactly. For sure. Yeah.
So one of the questions that's come up from some of the younger kids, and I think it's always good to get everyone's perspective on this, is I'm new to games. I see it's a team sport. How can I be a good teammate and how can I attract good people to ride with? How do I find a team? And everyone has a different take on it. So I think it's always
Yeah.
good to just impart that wisdom.
Yeah. I think just being open, and you definitely, it's like any other team, I guess, is you just need to be a great teammate, just be open with your teammates, and just, it's not even like the skill level as much as the attitude, just have a great attitude towards your teammates. And when you're young, you will get better, but in the beginning, you're gonna make some mistakes, as everybody does. And I think you just need to be able to just support your teammates, and not really, hold anything against each other, I guess. And trying to find one, it's, and you've all been there, we've all seen it, or, you kind of go through your lumps of kind of bouncing around teams. And then you finally, it was even with Bomb Squad, like we had different players coming and going. And then we finally, settled in with who we have now. And I've seen that with, both girls teams. And you kind of start, as you get more experience, then you're more sought after for teams. As in the beginning, sometimes it's just like people just throwing a team together and then learning to ride together. And then, after a few years, then you really start to find that, the teams that work together.
Yeah, definitely scrambling, I think, is if you're a new rider, like get out there and scramble with as many teams as you can, because that's the only way you're going to find that mix that really works for you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And you're so right about attitude too. I know that as a rider, even bringing up like green ponies and riding with different levels of riders, like if you have somebody who's very positive and supportive out there on the field, like that's the person that I'm gravitating to ride with the next time, right? I want to feel good when I walk out of that session, even if it wasn't the perfect session. Like they should be challenging me, sure, but I mean, be a good teammate. You're right.
Yeah, for sure. You rode with us last year. We had a great time.
We had so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I totally agree. And the one time I scrambled, I think like Bomb Squad like fell apart like 1 year. So we scrambled for most of a year, and I rode with Gone Rogue a couple of times. I rode with Quicksilver. That was fun on a different level because it was kind of refreshing just to ride with other people. And the over 25 is just so supportive and such a family of riders that it was like fun just to ride with, a different group and a different team. And whoever needed, almost like a hired gun kind of, not that I was good, but, just to fill in spots so it was like, oh, ride here. And that was fun. I enjoyed that.
I feel like whenever I do that and like hop on different teams, I always get to learn new skills from people because there are so many tips and tricks that you can learn from games to make you a better games rider. So I'm curious, what is like a tip or trick that you remember learning and it really upped your game as a rider?
I would say probably for me was learning how to vault was probably the biggest thing that, at an older rider and over 25, there's more now, but there was definitely just a few riders who could vault at the time. Right. So just, and it's very unorthodox. It's not your prototypical vault, but I can get on. And I think that like learning how to do that really, really helped as far as, as being an asset for the team, definitely in the vaulting races.
How did you learn? So especially since it's probably like fresher in your mind, right? Versus some of the kids you talk to. I love Kimmy. She was wonderful. And she's like, just sort of jumped. What was the steps? Like, how did you break it down?
I think, I think it was just probably started on Alan, the halflinger, who was probably, a stocky 13-2-3, something like perfect. That. Yeah. Smaller. So it was like perfect to jump on him and just learning, and I can still remember like being at Mullica Hill and picking up a sock and he was just banking the turn and being able to kind of throw my leg and get on and all, everybody cheering, it was just like you get those perfect vaults where you're just like, remember them. Like it was just so smooth coming out of there. And then, once you have that muscle memory down, then it's just a matter of, jumping higher, I guess,
Right.
Dakota to now Goodey. They switched up the race. We were supposed to play toolbox, but with the wind, they changed to sock and this
Yep.
time. And he kind of got ahead of me. I was left behind and I was running with him. And I was like, I didn't think I was going to get it. And like quickly through my head, I just remember the girls yelling, you need to jump forward, like get out and like jump and then get your feet out in front. And that totally propelled me on. I was able to jump and use the momentum because I couldn't believe how far out he got in front, and I really didn't want to circle him. And then I was like, I got one shot at this, so pick your feet up and jump as high as you can, and that worked. So, I think it was just the girls just kind of showing me and kind of like, oh, you got it, like that.
I love hearing the girls cheer for you on the sidelines. This year, being an open, we finally get to volunteer with your kids and just being able to stand next to them and them just screaming, Fred, jump, Fred, get on, Fred. Like they get so excited every time you enter the field of play and they're just going berserk. And it's the cutest thing ever. I'm guessing they taught you a lot of the games though, right? Like it was kind of like father-daughter moments.
Yeah, definitely over the years.
Yeah,
definitely. We were kind of set up. We were going to go and do like ride an open as a family down at Fall Finale, and then it kind of fell through a couple of years ago. But that would have been fun. That would have been the first time I ever truly would have ridden with them in a competition. But I mean, we practice with them, and I think that also helps our game, just because with the both of them in open, and it's like Jen, you riding with your mom, and Carly, and it definitely helps, as far as timing and getting used to that speed, or not that we're going as fast as you, but it helps you, as far as your timing and everything.
And like, you might not be going as fast out, let's say, or even coming back in, but you don't know what your teammate's going to do, or the pony that shows up that day for your teammate. And that's like so much of mounted games as other than individuals, right, is your handoffs. And I think that's the biggest thing that my mom has really taken away is like how to manage handoffs with different ponies, because I school a lot of different ponies, but also like my pony goes from like Mach 5, like coming out, like he goes from 0 to like 100 miles an hour,
so
and
hard
trusting.
I'm sure.
It's definitely helped her so that when she scrambles onto other teams, or if her teammate shows up and her pony's like bolting home, it's like you kind of have a mental plan, like, you're still preparing yourself for how you're going to handle somebody else's horse, which is just as important as your own.
Right. And you kind of figure out like I'll come into Carl for like sock handoffs because, Diggs is like rock steady and he'll stand there and Carl can take the handoff. Whereas, we've tried it with Steph and, and Barry was kind of like, Goodey's flying in and she was like, no way, like I'm out of here. So you learn that like what works together. And that's such a big part of riding as a team is like, and then you get the races. All right, this is not a handoff race, so we don't have to worry about that portion. But what else can we do as far as like, starting a running handoff so you're coming out with motion, and just to gain like that little bit. So it's little things that you're constantly thinking of, handoff, we definitely have like the handoff group, like our handoff, like the four of us, and this is what we use, and then you have the other ones for this or, so, there's,
that made me think
everybody
too.
has their positives. So you just have to find them, what works for each game.
That's something that we really haven't touched on, I don't think, in any podcast. And so like, if you're brand new to the sport, a huge part of preparing for each session or each competition is putting orders together.
You're right. Exactly.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But I mean, so every team has different strategies. Do you have like a designated person who puts them together for you and you guys review it? Do you guys sit together as a huddle and kind of figure it out?
We definitely have orders that work for each game, and then usually Steph and Leanne put it together. And then, how does this look? They'll send it to the group. And then if somebody's like, oh, I don't want to play it, like usually I'll sit out of like ring race or, definitely needle and thread is not my game at all. So,
hate that
yeah, exactly. So, they're like, Fred, you're sitting, so that's fine. Yeah. And, and there's things that work and we kind of all know it's like, look, if you're someone sitting we all try to be balanced and everybody sits out the same amount. But if there's something where it just doesn't work out and somebody has to sit out 3, I think at this point we're all good with that as far as whatever's best for the team. It's,
I think that's That's a big
Yeah.
thing too, is being balanced and how much you sit. Like I always try to, you step back and you're like, oh, I want to win. Well,
Mhm.
everyone's paying the same amount of money to be there. So be fair about it. And you're right, it might not be a
Right.
perfect balance, but I've seen teams that get out there and they're so intensely, pushing towards winning versus the experience that you see, like
Right.
maybe a rider that sits like literally 90% of the races. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
not, I mean, come on, we need to figure out how to balance it better. So definitely having a coach or a lead on a team who's kind of fighting to keep it fair and also takes point on, like you said, because I think we do the same. Like we have one person that really puts forward orders and then we all sort of chime in like, oh, maybe there's a little tweak with this handoff or something. But and definitely people have stronger positions too. And that's one of the cool things about teams with mounted games is that you can have totally different positions between the 4 riders and like playing to your strengths and the strengths of your pony. Like if you can vault, but other teammates can't.
Right. Or even just, some people don't want to handle the pressure of going first with the start
Yes.
or fourth with the pressure of finishing, and they're better in
Yep.
the middle. So then you take that into account. So, finishing like putting the final association on, that could be very stressful for people.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, it's definitely all things you have to think of. And then sometimes you might be in the ring or, after the first session, be like someone's, Goodey's out of his mind today or something like that. So I'm not going to be able to play this, Carl, you go in instead,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
he'll be faster, being more
Yeah.
consistent than blowing the whole race up. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, even though you're putting that all together, there's definitely constant changes as the
Agreed.
weekend goes on, for sure.
And I think being aware of yourself and your pony, there's definitely been times where my horse, it's like, I just completed a race. He's frazzled, something like there was actually the first time we went to an MA after we got the air machine to blow up the balloons.
Oh, the balloons,
And
yeah.
someone turned that on. And when they just started doing it, the
Oh,
hiss, like
yeah.
it was barely perceivable, but my horse just like, I could feel him as a bundle of wire under me. And I
Right.
was like, guys,
It's like
I'm going to
there's a
sit
snake
like
in
the
the
next
ring.
one. Yeah. He was just totally
Right.
different. And it
Yeah.
switched. And like, I've seen riders that are younger and maybe aren't quite at that maturity with their pony, and they'll be like, oh, we'll just do it anyway. But you got to be looking at how can I set my team up for success fairly, but
Right.
also my pony and the good
Yeah.
experiences with my pony.
Yeah. Like I always hate when they put 3 mug as their first race. I always feel like we need to ease into that.
Come
I'm like, I
on.
just can't come out of the gates doing 3 mug. I need a
Yeah.
couple races under my belt. Or they have like a carton into like something technical, and you're just
Oh, I
like,
know.
the ponies are all like up and, just like dragons. And it's like, all right, now everybody needs to calm down here. So
It's like starting with
there's
mug
always
shuffle.
that.
That's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's a hard
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What is
for
your
sure.
favorite
Yeah,
race of
Oh
all
my
the
gosh, I was
races?
just about to ask that
Oh.
question. I was like, I'm dying to know.
Yeah, I love carton. I love carton. I love,
Yes.
that's litter if it's going well is enjoyable, but carton, like, just, or no, I shouldn't say that. I should say probably 3 mug is my favorite. I would,
Really?
he's just, yeah, between carton,
Team 3 mug.
I love in carton, just like if once you get the carton in, just burying your head and just going as fast as
Yep.
you can.
Yep.
All right. And maybe 5 flag, but it's,
a good one.
So when you play
you're-
carton, do you cut through?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. No, wait, no, carton I don't. 3 mug.
So you
I
could just
do.
go
Yeah.
straight out.
I
So
do. Yeah, I'll just
for
take it and
people
go
who
straight.
like don't know, right? When you have your line of poles and you've got carton race, right? So you have your flipped upside down like bottle that's sitting on top of the poles. You can either, come out of the gate and just go straight past everything. And I feel some ponies do it really well. Some ponies
Mhm.
drift out and then you can miss like your pick. And then there's riders that like to start on the right side of the poles and they cut through in front of the carton to give them that like extra moment, but also to keep them, nice and close.
Right.
But so he goes straight past them, just like out the gate.
Yeah, he'll go straight. Sometimes I have to reach a little bit, but definitely. And then he's pretty good about making the end turn and around the small bucket, which is good.
What
Yeah.
order
Definitely
do you
with 3
usually
mug,
go?
I cut through just to get, because then when you can, you
little
cut through and then you
extra.
can start your circles. And just, it just depends. Like he really blasted out on Sunday, I guess. And it was like, I thought he was going to go, like I really had to reach for that first mug, but he,
Dialed
he was
it
able to get
in.
his circles going. Yeah, he dialed it in enough to keep it going.
So what
He has
position do you
cut
do
through,
for
yeah.
each race for
What's
the
that?
3 top races, right? So you mentioned, and Carlos
Yeah.
started, but carton litter, I think you mentioned too.
Yeah,
And
litter
3
if it goes
mug.
well is fun, and then like 5 flag is just
5
like
flag.
that's just a rush. Like when when you're flying home and you can kind of feel the wind and just like, I mean, there's a lot of adrenaline involved with mounted games, which I
For
think
sure.
makes it so much fun, where it's just like, you get through like a good anything, any of the races. And
Yep.
it's like, wow, that was awesome.
So
and I think too, in the beginning, when you're first starting, like, it was funny because John Campbell was razzing me a lot because they won 3-pot flag, in the A final. And it was like, I forget, I think, no, maybe it was Saturday. I forget. No, I think it was Saturday they won. And he's like, hey, Fred, guess what? We won A final, or we won a 3-pot. And it's just like, it's the little things on the weekend where you're like, when you win a race and it's just like, that was awesome. That can make a weekend, so that's always a lot of fun too.
That's so true. Like just having that one good race. I know there's so many times where like maybe it wasn't the best team dynamic, or your team is like wonderful, but maybe you're not connecting for handoffs or something. But you're like, I got my vault in that moment and it went well. And like I take that to the bank, and like that feeling just from that one race out of 36 plus races that we do that weekend. It doesn't matter because that one went well.
Right.
So and you can build on it, so then it's like for the next time, it's like you remember that. So it's great.
Definitely for confidence. So carton race, going back, where do you like to go in order? Because it does get technical with the bucket placement.
For sure.
As far
which
as
carton you pick up, and then knowing like, do you have all the room, or do you like to go first and have room where you can kind of drop it in, or do you like to go last where you have to like reach all the way into the bucket?
Yeah, Goodey's, he likes to start. So I go first usually, and they'll tell me take 2 or 3 because Leanne, I forget, she likes 1 or 4. I think she likes to get it quickly and then get down there to get like the pickup out of the way. And then I think Chris goes 4th because then she can slow down, get it, and then she's putting the last one in, which is always the hardest. So she can, kind of check them up for the handoff, have them checked, and then be able to set it in without it bouncing out. And then I think Steph and I usually get the middle too. But, you start getting freaked out about it, even if your pole's like bent a little bit, like, you're like, can you straighten my pole? It's 3 inches to the right. And it's, everybody starts freaking
Tamp
out.
it down a couple of times. Like we need to be sure.
And that's it again, as far as like, not only do we have an order, but we have positions of pickup, and it's like over the years, you just, as your team progresses, you start learning those things and which one, and everybody's just not out there grabbing whatever they can. There's a reason for everything in every race.
Right. So does that mean you start 5 flag too? If he's starting?
No, I think I was like 2 or 3 in 5 flag. I think it went Stephanie to Leanne to me to Carl. So
5 flag handoffs.
Yeah, that we've been working on that probably this year the most, as far as really, really coming out strong with the handoff. And what was great at the last competition on Sunday was Chris sat out, but she was timing us. So she would tell us when to go. So we would start back, and she, once whoever picked it up, and she'd be like, wait, all right, go now. So you're coming into each other with speed. And so like I said, we've really been working on that, seeing that is just another asset for the team to gain some time.
Just a little bit of ground.
Yeah. And sometimes it works. Sometimes, you're coming out, you're flying down there, and then, you just have to have your head in the game the whole time, where you miss the put in or something, then you got to circle or something happens. But at least, that's definitely one of the races, any of the flag races, I guess, or I should say litter stick too. You'd come in and, you can go out with speed. They're easier to grab, the mugs, the bottles are hard, they're hard to get running handoffs with bottles. I feel like, because they're so big. Yeah. I
think it's so important too that you kind of highlight team communication from the rider that's maybe out of a race, or that one rider that does have experience, on the field. Like definitely is important on our team dynamic. And anytime I scramble, like having one rider that's watching to make sure that the pack of riders that maybe aren't in the field right now are up off the line. So make sure that there's plenty of run out and plenty of space for your handoffs to occur. So have that person that's kind of monitoring like the back and watching the rider that's going out and communicating like timing. Definitely there's times where like I'm on my horse, he's definitely hot off the line, and I'll be like, team, let me know when they've passed this. and then they're
Right.
watching kind of for me, right? And you almost get into situations, and it's happened to everybody, like we all like blank out sometimes, but where the team stops watching and they stop communicating with you, and you don't know if you're racing, and you don't know what's going
Right.
on in the field, or do I haul in, or is it, somebody
Yeah.
else blew up mug too? Like,
And it is funny because so many people could be screaming out there and you hear none of them. And
exactly,
you
right?
got time, and we're telling you had time, and it's like, I didn't hear anything.
Or
So,
you hear the
so
wrong
if you can
person
focus
too.
on one voice, that's telling you, and
Yeah.
especially because I'll go last in association. So I'm always trying to listen to hear what they say. Do I have time or not to set on, or if we're racing, to kind of go for it. So yeah, but it is amazing what you don't hear out there, and so many people are talking to you.
And I think too, like you bring up a good point when you're like the fourth rider for association, or if you're like a little bit newer in the sport, do intentionally try to listen back to your team, because it's very easy to get absorbed into the play and what you're doing. But that communication can be so huge, because there's times, particularly if you're the fourth rider, you got to be pretty good at this, like gauging the field. There's a lot of times where other things are happening in the field that you maybe can't see, especially with 8 lanes of play. And like
Right,
you've got to be
exactly.
listening back so that you don't rush something when you in theory could have walked and still had the same placing.
Exactly, right. Yep. And that's we're always trying to communicate, even with handoffs, with like what you're saying. Sometimes like somebody's fussing with their pony, and they're not presenting what they need to hand off. So it's like, put the bottle up, and then it kind of like takes them, kind of like shocks them out of what they're doing to get the bottle up so you can see it, or put your hand up so I have somewhere to aim for it, and you're kind of fussing just to keep them straight, and then you're not realizing you don't have your hand up, and that's when you miss handoffs, when you're not that. So we definitely do a lot of that too, is just to make sure we present to each other the hand and the equipment so we can grab it.
No, definitely talking through like things like handoffs is huge. Even being like, take it. You're right. It kind of like wakes you up, and it's like, all right, this is an intense moment. But even things like pony pairs, like in our sport, I feel like more than most equestrian sports, like you have to be actively communicating with not just your horse. Like we have to be communicating like inward and outward, so to speak. Like, so what my partner's pony's doing, what I'm doing, what my pony's doing. And you've got races like pony pairs that just really like are a catalyst for all of that. And it is so cool when it goes right.
Hula hoop too. Hula hoop too.
Yeah.
Pony pairs definitely, like communicating through the poles, give me room, back and forth is crucial. And even like with hula hoop, as far as do you have your pony, or all right, I have your pony, now do you have your pony back so we could go? So you definitely have to talk through. Or actually, I like to run up to the tire, and Steph will take Goodey along and keep moving. Whereas when I'm with Chris, she likes to ride up and stop at it. So you need to know what your partner wants to do, so that way you're not making those mistakes out there of blasting out, and someone's waiting for you to grab your
Everybody rides differently.
Yeah. Particularly when you're scrambling onto a team that you've never ridden with before, like trying to be aware and asking the questions as you play. Like little things that definitely throw me are like hug a mug and coming home and like somebody holding the mug the wrong direction, whatever it is. And I've seen people hold the side, I've seen people hold the back, you've seen people hold in the middle. And taking that
definitely.
At speed wrong just does not feel right.
Oh yeah. I could definitely jam your fingers in a second. It's it's open or closed. Everybody want open or closed. And so, and I see positives to both of them. Whereas some people are like, well, you just put your hand in, and I'm like, I don't know, I just need something solid to grab against. And it just depends on how you've learned, I think, and it's too late to fix it. It's a winter project to work on that.
Now, how do you guys hold bottles? Like, do you hold, out of curiosity, in your area, do you hold the top, or do you hold the back and bottom? Every region has a different way of doing it. So I'm just curious what works for you guys.
I think the girls hold the top and kind of lean it back, which I can't comprehend that. I don't. Like I think for the most part, we'll hold it. I'll hold it and have my index
like
finger
the
on the back of it like that.
Yeah.
So I could kind of push it into like Carl's hand or whoever's next, and make sure he has something solid to pull against. And I've seen people do it a million times and they get it every time, but I feel like when it's like back, like
there's
you're
no
trying to
target.
spin it.
What
Like
do you
you're gonna
grab?
spin it.
Exactly.
I know.
But they do it, and they're like, that's how you have to do it. And I just the physics behind it doesn't make sense to me. They don't make
exactly.
sense, but but it works, and that's how I know a lot of people do it. So
And that's what we kind of like started figuring. I think in one of our live streams, we were all talking about it. And the live streams have been so much fun because we have people from all these different regions that hop in the chat and they're giving like commentary as we go.
Right.
And we were talking about bottle handoffs most recently. And like they were, everyone up north seems to hold the top of it. And then you've got people who, are kind of like holding the back. And the same thing was setting it down. Like, are you a squisher? Do you go like 2-4 when you pick up bottles? Or are you like the 1-3 where you set the bottle down? What position do you usually play for that?
I usually go 2. So I'll set it on the end turn, which I just feel it's easier as he's going around the barrel to put it on. 4 bottle shuttle. And then I'll pick it up on the way home. I missed my pickup. I felt like my hand had like a layer from all the rain and everything. It had such a layer of like dust, and I had like no grip whatsoever, and I felt it like slip right off. But on the other thing too is on like bottle exchange where everybody does the same back and forth. I'll hold the top of the bottle and kind of shake the sand down, and then set it with like a like moving arm
so
back
you do the
motion to kind of take the energy, kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of, just trying to set it, because I felt like I always just flipped it over, but it just seems to work for me. So
you just did someone, I've been trying for 6 months to get that windmill motion to work.
Yeah.
Because my mom can do it every time. Like it's beautiful. And I think part of it too is that DJ keeps a steady pace for her. She doesn't have to do like a cut. I don't know if you do one, or do you just kind of go straight at it?
I think I kind of go straight at it. Yeah. I don't do too much of an S turn for that. Yeah. And and I just make sure I shake the sand to the bottom, because sometimes you get it and it's like all throughout the bottle. And if you try to put it down, the shifting of the sand could move it over. So I definitely try to shake it.
Definitely have to try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you up in like half seat? No, again, this is for my benefit because so are you like up and forward with your pony as you're doing the windmill motion and you kind of follow it back, or?
I would think so. I'm probably in like 2 point at that point. So yeah.
I feel like I get left behind.
I definitely
by
don't feel
pony.
like I'm sitting. I definitely feel like I'm kind of leaning forward. And it's not a huge windmill. You just want to, just be able to kind of take the energy out of it as you're moving forward.
I think that's such a good point. It came up in the live chat too, but one of the kids that hopped in, they were like, so what's the best way? And it's like, whatever you're good at, really.
Yeah. Whatever works for you.
I mean, some of these you watch videos of like these open riders, the European riders, and they're flying.
How?
And it's just like, they just set it like, and it doesn't move. I'm like, unbelievable. Like the skill level is unbelievable.
Same thing for 2-flag too. Watching them play 2-flag is insane. The way that they can set that thing down at a gallop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's definitely takes.
Yeah, definitely. The pickup or the put in on that, at least the pickup's easier, but the put down is, and you're coming off of either the A or C line and it's at the first pulse. So you have like zero time to really.
It's immediate.
Exactly. You have to like get your act together quickly.
I think that's one thing too that I want to take away, like for winter practice, is pushing myself to do stuff at like a higher speed in practice at home, expecting that my pony's going to do it in competition. Cause I feel like my timing gets off because he'll lope and like practice at home. At competition though, with everybody head to head, like he pushes out and it just kind of throws everything. Like challenging myself to just do it faster and kind of refine it. Like, what is your takeaway, I guess, for the winter going into next season? What are you really trying to work on?
Yeah. And I would definitely, it's hard because Goodey's like that too. Like he's not a big fan of practice. So he won't, but then, it definitely changes. So your timing changes, but, the quoits lean, I definitely want to perfect that more, and come out of that. That was fun. Being able to get that was pretty awesome. So, I'll never be able, especially with his height, and get something like a hoopla off the ground, but then you don't have to. My biggest problem is I'll come home with no stirrups and then I'll be off balance. So anything that I have to do, like if I have to do something on the way home, then I try to like quoits, I would get it in stirrup, but now that I can lean, I'm already in the saddle. So I don't have to worry about, getting myself situated as I'm coming up on this cone at the B line. So hoopla and sock, I can come home without any stirrups and I just have to worry about the handoff. But if it's toolbox or anything that I have to lean or then, I try to make sure that I'm definitely more balanced so I can make that, or not just throwing it in, which, I've gotten in trouble for, like you threw it, and I'm like, no, I didn't, but
when you chuck it. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Just so definitely, as you can come in and kind of set it in is better. So yeah.
Well, we're coming up on top of an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any closing thoughts, anything that we didn't cover that you want to leave the audience with?
I don't know. I know you had something in here, and I don't know if we could trim, but as far as like the kids, like the joint experiences or whatever,
yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah,
that was one thing I think with Katie that we talked about was how much family is integrated into our sport compared to maybe one other equestrian sports, but even other sports in general. Like so much of it is an escape to go be with family, and this community that we've formed is like a family too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things definitely that I enjoy when going to the competitions. It's just the family atmosphere of everyone. Who you camp with, going around visiting everybody at their campsites, and just when you're out on the field, everybody's supporting each other, and if anybody needs anything, like everybody's trying their best to try to help each other out. If like a reins break or something, like I just feel like in some other equestrian sports, it's more individual. So, you're trying to gain an edge on everybody, but definitely in the team, or just games in general, I think we're all just out there just having fun and just trying to support each other at the end of the day, which I find to be fantastic and something that really drew me to mountain games. Yeah, exactly. That like, this is fun. This is exciting. Something I want to try.
So what's the best experience you have had as a family with your daughters, competing, or what is like that core memory for you?
I think the best, and it was in Pony Club, but in 2015, the girls won Prince Philip Cup. And
cool.
So, that was at the 3-day event. We went the first year and they got third so it was like an experience, and we went back the next year, and the goal was to get back to Prince Philip Cup, and they ended up winning. And so, talk about a proud parent moment in front of, all these, event and riders and all these fans. And it was even better because Zara Phillips, who is an English eventer, who's the granddaughter of Prince Philip, presented the award, the trophy and the ribbons to the girls. And we have pictures of her like with her arm around Rocky, like razzing him up and stuff, like, telling Caroline what a cute pony he was. And that was like for both of them, because they were both on the team, that was probably the biggest thing that was like so memorable, that was. And then as far as like one of the biggest moments, and I was telling Elise about this earlier, was I took her down to ride with Michelle Riley's team Whiplash. They needed a fifth rider down at in Virginia, because USMGA was in Virginia. And she rode with the team. They ended up doing really well. And then at the end, they presented her with a like Whiplash jersey with her name on it and asked her to be on the team. And that was just so like, cool. The two of us are like hugging and crying, and like it was just such an awesome moment, like as a parent, and just for her, because she worked so hard at it, like to get on the team. It was made for a great ride home. So that was fun.
That's so exciting. And so much too, like a lot of people are traveling distances.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't end when you just like walk away from the competition, but usually you've got like a 6-hour debrief, where you're sitting with your family and you're kind of working through what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Scrolling through videos and pictures and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that, I wish we were able to do more competitions down there, and they would just put in a big ring already, because that's such a fantastic centrally located venue for everybody from down south and for all of us. I always enjoyed going there, but unfortunately, like the rings are small, and maybe a pairs, but I don't know if that would even work. Yeah.
I was talking to Lisa recently too about, hunting for new facilities and almost creating like a repository of information, so we can start tracking like sizes of arenas, whether you can do camping, what do your hookups look like, stalls, etc., and start creating a platform so it's maybe a little bit easier to know what we have investigated and what we haven't. But also like then we can start looking at geography and say, okay, where is it kind of regionally where we can get everybody together? And we have, maybe enough space, because it requires like a lot of space for our competitions, the arenas.
And we were even looking one winter, it was, Patty, Chris, and Carl, and we were all looking for large indoors to have like indoor pairs. And that was even something, an indoor stabling and
Yeah.
like Dream Park, like if Dream Park
Yeah.
works out, that would be fantastic, because that was so much fun down there when Jesse ran a few, years back. And, but they're so full
So full. Like they are booked up for the next 9 months.
between
So
dog
Meg's
agility and
bartering and
everything.
stealing, and they gave me a
Oh, yeah.
weekend, but
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
no, you're
So we
right
were
about the
excited about
indoor
that.
too. We need to have like enough space to be able to, even get a couple of lanes. But the cool thing about Dream Park is that it's heated, which is amazing for
Exactly.
volunteering.
So
Right,
nice.
exactly. Yeah, just like, you go in there and you feel cool, but by the end, it's like you go outside, you come back in, you're like, all right, it's nice and
Whew,
it's like
yeah.
50, or something, 45, but it's great.
No, it really is. I think it's going to happen. So I'm super excited about that too. But I mean,
Yeah.
so also you brought up Rocky, and not everybody knows Rocky as
Oh,
a pony, but could you describe him really quick? Because he was the cutest.
yeah. So, and I'll even get his size wrong. I think, what was he, 12'3",
He's little.
12'2"?
Yeah.
He was the ultimate games machine, that
Yes.
pony. He taught so many riders. He started with the Royers, the McBains had him. We had him for a while, so Elise rode him, and then Caroline rode him. But he was a spitfire, and he was kind of like, just hold on, I'll do my job, like for the girls. Like, amazing, like just small and fast. And
He was like Strawberry
and
Roan, wasn't he? He was
yeah,
like
yeah,
quintessential, like type A Welsh pony, like with the big
yeah.
crest and just beautiful
Yeah.
built.
Cute.
Exactly. And like, yeah, because the girls went to the McBains on down at Morven. They went there on Saturday night to stay over and have dinner. And there was a picture of Sadie on Rocky down there. And then we have a ton of pictures of like Elise and Caroline. And then, like I said, it all started with Alicia and Tyler. And yeah, he was like world renowned. Like everybody,
Yes.
is that Rocky? Like he'd take him down south and be like, oh. And speaking of Virginia, I took Caroline down to ride on a team. She had some pony club friends from Tennessee that wanted her to ride at the Virginia USMGA. And here we have this 4-horse living quarter trailer, and we like pull in, and little Rocky gets off, and that's it. He was the only pony on it was like, ladies and gentlemen, Rocky has arrived.
Rocky.
It was hysterical. Like,
That's
yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
and so many
exactly.
ponies, like even Dusty did, I mean, the same, right? You have ponies that
Yeah,
like get started
Dusty.
in games, and they just go until they're like 28, 30 years old, and just
Yeah.
start teaching the next generations of riders. You'll have this one pony that goes to all these loving homes through the process of like bringing new kids up into games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Barry's in her 30s, and she's
Yeah.
still like amazing.
Kick it, like,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, like just does not want to slow down. There's times Steph's like, what are you doing, Barry? Like, she's just so up and moving. She does this extended trot it's amazing to watch when she does it. And and it seems like every spring she comes out like, I don't know, this may be, Barry's last year, and then let it warm up a little bit, and she's just like, boom, let's go. It's
Yeah.
game season. And
So many ponies,
yeah.
I think, in this sport specifically that do well, they thrive on being in work, and they love their
Yeah.
job. And a
Right.
lot of people, like, I know I've definitely talked to some people who are not really horse people, and they're like, oh, aren't you pushing them? Why would they enjoy it? There's horses that really do enjoy this kind of job.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And they can
No.
even like some lesson ponies, or, they're just used to be, like you said, in that work and in that rhythm and that routine, and you take them out of that, it seems like they just go downhill.
Yeah, they go
quickly,
downhill
like
so
this.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, DJ, we're in the same position. He's in his, mid, late 20s, and he's starting to get to the point where you're starting to see
Yeah.
the age, but he
Yeah.
just loves his work. Like, he loves his
Yep.
job. And it's like, well,
And
I
he's
mean, as long as you're happy and you're showing up, there's no reason to stop.
Right.
Yeah, and they're healthy, and
Yeah.
you can, whatever you're doing, a supplement, to keep them going and make
Yeah.
them comfortable, and they're, as long as they're doing it. I mean, definitely
Exactly.
it's the best thing for them. Good exercise.
Any closing thoughts as we start to wrap this up here?
No, can I cut in one thing? Can I cut?
Yes,
I
you
didn't
can.
talk about
Yes.
Caroline. I talked about Elise, and I didn't talk about
No,
Caroline.
that's the
So
reason I was giving
Go
you an
for it.
opportunity. You're good.
Yeah. Probably Caroline's greatest memory as an individual it wasn't even games related, but she won Area 2 champs at Morven.
Oh, wow. Yes.
In eventing 2018. So
Yeah.
that another like proud parent moment. She
That's
you know,
huge.
and
Yeah.
she she had a show jumping round where Bugsy like went over the first jump. The second jump, he over jumped it so much, kind of threw her out of the saddle where all the crowd was like, and she, because of a games rider, she was, and like, didn't even phase her. She settled down, got through the rest of the course clean. And it was like, that was totally because of games.
Yeah.
So it was, that was fantastic. And, and then, her going clear on cross country where she's coming in and we're like running to her, like, again, like, all welled up because you knew she did it, you're just like so happy that, all her hard work paid off. So that was huge for her.
It definitely makes me think too of the joys of, there are joys in being in an individual sport where you can really focus and dial down on your success with your pony. Mm-hmm. But our sport does allow that too. We don't necessarily have enough individual competitions, but overseas, like individuals is a huge part of the sport.
Happens all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And you just think of all those opportunities, and it's another room, for growth in our sport here, but individuals for sure.
Yeah, individuals and pairs, and you just have to play them differently because you get exposed because you have to ride every race. So there's certain, there's that strategy as a team that when you're pairs, it's like, like you get to, you may have like not the speediest pony, or, your pony's too hot, and you got to play the technical games, and it's like, oh, so there, that always makes it that much more fun when you're out there.
So have you ever been on a team with your whole family together?
No, not yet.
We talked about this. So I think it was at nationals, and maybe we were talking to Patty, but we're like, there's enough core families in our organization that we could literally do a family division one year just for fun, or even like a 1-day type thing, and just have like families together. That would be so cool.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that once too. I think who had that conversation that we talked about that, but there's definitely enough to at least field, 6-8 teams for sure.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy though?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, how many other sports do you have the parents just as engaged as the kids, and they can celebrate their successes like together because they're all competing in some capacity together? Like, it's so exciting.
Yeah. I get that all the time. Like, so you ride too? And I'm like, yeah, there's an adult division. I ride. So, and they're like, and what do you do?
And I think too, like, as like a closing thought on that family subject, right? If you aren't riding yet, but your kids are out there, like, don't just sit on the sidelines. It is such an opportunity for you to be engaged with your kids and like get on the field and do the ring crew, learn how the races work, cheer for your kids, like, because you're going to look back. I have so many memories looking back to when I was younger, and like my mom would be out on the field, or my dad would drive by with his convertible and 2 Great Danes were like peeping out and he's cheering for me. Like, and he's not a horse person, but he was present, so stay engaged.
Yeah, you don't need to know anything to help out with mounted games. You definitely just need to come out, and there are so many supportive people that can explain it to you, tell you what you need to do as like a ring crew. You get the best seat in the house being right on the sidelines, and you get to meet the best people. I mean, I remember starting and just, meeting, some of the dads, George and Dave McBain and Randy Godshall and Mark Atherhull and Howard Royer, and just like, you kind of all just form this camaraderie. And once you talk to them, and then, and John Ranowski and Charlie and they teach everything, like, here, I'll show you, or, come down to Beeline and, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's definitely the best way to meet people and to definitely, become part of the family, instead of, if you're going to be out there, you might as well help. That's what I always felt. So
just volunteer, just be present. Someone will give you, a stick or a cone and be like, here, place it there.
Take these mugs and put them on all those poles. Like, it's not hard. It's just, it's great just to have, save somebody's legs that they don't have to do all the work.
Yeah.
So,
you learn by doing, for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show here, Fred. We had so much fun today. So great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This went very fast. I didn't expect it to go that
right.
fast.
That's what I tell people
every time.
Yeah.
I have so many people that are nervous. So tell them it's not as scary as they think, right?
Oh, no. You're just having it's like if you're used to a Zoom call, it's just like a Zoom call. So and just having a great conversation. And it's
No,
something that you
definitely.
enjoy to talk about. So
Yes.
it's not like a subject you don't know about. So,
And I can't wait for next year as we start to get into a role here, bringing people back onto the show, like 8 months, 12 months from now, and look at like where they're sitting and how they're feeling about their skills and what they're focused on. Like there's so much opportunity even for you to come back and be like, here's where our team sits, or this is where I'm growing, It's
Okay.
going to be so fun.
Yeah, and I think just having these all through the winter, it's just keeping people involved and learning things, and like, oh, I never tried something like that. So,
Right.
just try different techniques or just, learning about the organization and the sport. So,
Yeah.
I think great job. I'm like so excited for you too. And this has been great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can't
Oh, well,
wait for
thank
it
you
to
so
take
much
off.
for coming on. Anybody who has watched this, if you enjoyed this, please like, please subscribe, please share the video. Go on our YouTube and like, subscribe. I've got so many people that are lined up to potentially come onto the show, but they want to continue seeing growth. So let's keep pushing it out there. Let's get our YouTube channel out there. It gives us a platform to bring on more guests and more interviews. So I'm super excited about it. Thank you so much, Fred.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too.
Take care.
You're listening to Unbridled with your host, Genevieve and Carly. Welcome to Unbridled.